Vilnius, Lithuania. Hi, I'm Lori, a senior solo traveler, and I recently spent 2 days in Vilnius. I'll share my 5 favorite places I visited, as well as my experience as a senior traveling solo. At the end of the video, I'll provide some tips and advice for anyone planning a visit. Here goes. Number 1, Town Hall Square. In the heart of Old Town is Town Hall Square, where no matter where you stand, your eyes are directed to the majestic Town Hall at the apex of the square. The building was first mentioned historically in the 1400s, however, it has been rebuilt numerous times throughout history. It currently appears as a very stately building with thick columns lining the front of the facade. The Town Hall Square is the setting for numerous community activities. While I was there, a wedding party was getting their picture taken in front of the building, and the next night they had a free concert. The entertainment turned out to be a tribute to Frank Sinatra, which as an American I found ironic. It was good fun though, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. This was a Thursday evening, so if you visit in the summertime, check to see what events might be scheduled. The square is also surrounded by some other beautiful buildings, which now house shops, hotels, and restaurants. Number 2, Gediminas Castle Tower. There are 2 ways to get to the Gediminas Castle Tower, walking or funicular. I had planned to take the funicular to save myself some steps, but couldn't seem to find the entrance. So I just decided to walk up. It wasn't too difficult once you got to the stairs, however the cobblestones at the beginning of the trek were a little tricky to maneuver. The reward at the top was fantastic though. There is a large plaza where you can see panoramic views of the city's rooftops and winding streets, as well as the Neris River that runs through the city. You can appreciate the views from the plaza, or you can pay to enter the museum and climb some more stairs to the top of the tower. I chose to do this and paid €4, which was a discounted senior rate. It was double that for the adult ticket. It wasn't too difficult of a climb to the top. At least the stairs were more even and regular than some spiral stairs I've encountered. There were a couple levels on the way up where there were displays and exhibitions highlighting the city's history. When you emerge from the very top level, you have an even higher perspective on the city. If you are just coming here for the views, I think you can appreciate just as much from the lower plaza, but if you want to take in the museum, then you will want to pay the fee. As I was up there, I looked across to the adjacent hill and spotted the 3 Crosses, another historic site that was on my list. From this vantage point, I made the decision that I would not be hiking up that long hill, since I could see it beautifully from where I stood. Number 3, Vilnius Cathedral and Bell Tower. At the edge of Old Town in Cathedral Square sits the glorious Vilnius Cathedral, with its neoclassical facade and the adjacent bell tower. When I visited the cathedral, Mass was in session, so I couldn't walk all the way in. So I stuck with the other tourists and appreciated it from the back and sides. The chapel is magnificent with a monochromatic ceiling, intricate decorative details, and historic paintings. There was a simplicity or modesty to the design, yet it was very captivating. The outside of the building is statelier than the inside, but it has its flourishes of bas-relief and statues on the rooftop. Just outside the church's doors is a bell tower. There is a small fee to enter, and there are a few levels with some historical displays. As you rise, you are able to see the inner workings of the tower. It is a precarious climb to the top. I'll say to my fellow senior travelers out there that my advice would be to reconsider. The stairs at the beginning of the climb are uneven spiral steps with a rope for a railing. The second part has rickety wooden, very steep stairs with low railings. The last elevation was closer to a ladder than stairs. It took all the agility I could manage to get to the top. I would like to say the views are worth it when you get there, and they were somewhat nice, but the openings were covered with a grate. I was able to take some decent pictures through these little openings, but it wasn't easy viewing. We were warned that the bells go off every 15 minutes. Since I startled easy, I was happy they warned me. Just the same, they still startled me when they rang. There were only 2 loud bongs at that time of day. Climbing back down was just as tricky. I enjoyed the challenge and seeing the inner workings of the tower, but my advice would be to appreciate the cathedral from the inside and the bell tower from the outside. Number 4, walk the streets of Old Town. As you walk the many winding streets of Old Town, you stumble across numerous examples of historic architecture. One of my favorite places was the St. Anne's Church because I love the architecture. The brickwork on this building is so detailed. No simple lines here. And I love these windows. The inside is modest but beautiful, with arched ceilings, ornate carvings, pretty stained glass windows, and a decorative altar. Oh, and check out the front doors and entry tiles. Love it. If you cross the river into the artsy Uzupis District, you will find the Angel of Uzupis statue, which is surrounded by outdoor cafe seating. Adjacent to the statue is the whimsical Constitution of Uzupis, which is written in several languages. It makes statements such as, "Everyone has the right to die, but this is not an obligation." It is all quite fun and gives you a taste of the bohemian vibe. There are so many beautiful buildings and settings in Old Town, so many that I didn't identify them all. However, I'd like to share a few images as I wander the streets. Just lovely. Number 5, Trakai. My absolute favorite place I visited in Vilnius was actually not in Vilnius. It was a 30-minute train ride out of the city. The Trakai Castle is an island castle located in Lake Galvė. The construction of the stone castle began in the 14th century. Trakai was one of the main centers of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and the castle held great strategic importance. It was rebuilt in the 1950s and 60s, and the Trakai History Museum was established after the reconstruction. To get to Trakai, I walked from the heart of Old Town to the train station, purchased a round-trip ticket for $3.20, took the next train to Trakai, then hailed a rideshare or Bolt from the train station to the Trakai Castle. It was walkable from the train station, but I didn't want to waste the time, and it only cost around $4 for the ride. Once there, I was treated to views of this beautiful lake and castle. There is an area near the entrance of the castle with shops and restaurants lining the water's edge. And there is every kind of water boat rental you can conjure, from paddleboarding to kayaking to paddle boats. I knew immediately that I wanted to take a boat ride. I could see that one of the tour boats was almost full, so I assumed it would be leaving soon, and it was. I paid €7.50 for an absolutely gorgeous cruise around the lake. The waters that day were like glass, and we slowly motored around the castle island. There were a few places on the shore where you could see some buildings, but it was mostly undeveloped grassland with some scattered trees. The boat ride was about an hour, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Once I finished this gorgeous cruise, I headed across 2 bridges to the castle. The views along these bridges are beautiful. Unfortunately, the castle was under construction when I visited, which somewhat marred the view of the castle, but it was still magnificent. When I arrived at the entrance, there was a long line to get tickets, so I took my chances and decided to circumnavigate the building in hopes the line would be shorter when I finished. The trek around the castle was peaceful and picturesque, with numerous spots to relax and enjoy the surroundings. Once back at the castle, the line was even longer, so my gamble didn't pay off, but it only took about 20 minutes to get to the ticket counter. I paid €6 to enter as a senior, which was half the price of the adult ticket. The interior of the building was not what I expected. Some of it was fairly rustic, but other parts seemed much more modern, or at least not crumbling like many castles and fortresses I visited. There was an old punishment stocks and cage out front, which contrasted with the antiquities within the museum. Somehow the objects didn't fit my idea of the medieval lifestyle. The objects included unique porcelain, etched glassware, beaded purses, and other interesting pieces. There was a drawbridge that took you to another building, which had a couple levels. This side felt more rustic to me. It had some interesting hallways, stairways, arched ceilings, and stonework. I wandered around the entire complex and thought about what it would be like to live here. I had booked a return ticket on the train and had given myself 4 hours to explore. I now had an hour left, so I decided to walk back to the train station, which was supposed to be a 40-minute walk. I strolled by some pretty buildings, an eye-catching church, and residential streets, with glimpses of the lake on both sides of the street. It seemed I was back to the train station in no time. If you are planning a trip to the castle, just know that it will take up a chunk of your time, so if you only have a day to explore Vilnius, you will want to start early in the morning. So those were my 5 favorite places to visit. If I would have had another day, I might have rented a bike and ridden it along the Neris River. It looked like that might have been a beautiful ride. For solo travelers, I think you will find Vilnius a very welcome and comfortable city. It was also less expensive than its Scandinavian neighbors. For seniors, the old town of the city was fairly easy to navigate, with some hills, inclines, and lots of cobblestones. If you have any mobility issues, do some research in advance. I was pleased to find so many senior discounts on tickets and admissions. One note of caution for anyone visiting: the scooters and bikes often ride on the sidewalks, weaving between pedestrians, so keep your eyes open when walking. The city was my final stop on a 30-day trip through Scandinavia and the Baltic region, so it was nice to finish on a high note. If you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments section. Check out the Senior Solo Travel website and the Travel Facebook forum where you can interact with other travelers. I have left links to both in the description below, as well as to others from this magnificent trip. And if you'd like to follow my senior and solo travel journeys, please like and subscribe. Next stop, Dublin.